Hey, we live, boob tube. Here to support. You are so sweet. Thank you kindly. And yeah, we are sorry that you had to wait not too long. I set it for 7:15 and then my computer locked me out. And I was able to get back in all by my big old self without my support staff. So am I all plugged in? Is there a good sound? It's so nice to have this more professional mic as long as it's all plugged in and working. So it's all good. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know. So we'll get started. Wow. How are you? Happy New Year. It's the 2nd of January. It is Thursday. And wow. I just keep thinking about January 6th. I don't know about you guys, but it's unclear what's going to happen on January 6th. So I don't want to get too carried away with it because I don't have a crystal ball. And for all I know, things will go without a hitch. But it seems, that whole 14th Amendment thing, that pesky amendment, part 3, that says specifically that no one that's a insurrectionist can be inaugurated. So we'll see what happens. It's a whole lot of crazy these days, and really is quite frightening. Let me do my thing, get started with my regular subscribe, please, if you're not subscribed, or if you are, make sure that you still are. Share a video of mine with someone that you think might like, and turn your notification bell to ring. Where's that thumb? The creepy thumb. Dun dun dun. Hit that like button. Happy New Year. Here's to 2025, the year of transparency, disclosure, and truth. Wouldn't that be cool? Wow. That's a tall order. But it is good to not set the bar too low, right? Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation with you, open up a discussion, learn something. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. It is pretty wild. For anyone who's not aware about the situation, is that, and I probably can't speak on it too clearly because I'm no politics buff. Basically, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, states very clearly in the language that no person who has been an insurrectionist or is an insurrectionist can be inaugurated for the presidency. So if that gets held up, it is the law, but does it have teeth, or is it just going to get plowed right through? Sky's the limit, Miss Jazz. Yeah. So let's talk about some of these horrible disasters that have happened. Not to mention the 2 airplanes last week. That's so last week. Dang. Yesterday, the Tesla, the Cybertruck that blowed up in front of a Trump, what do you call it? Hey, Billy, darling, a Trump hotel in Vegas. And then the whole thing, it's now the body count, unfortunately, is up to 15 in New Orleans. So sad. How's Billy? So maybe Chuck Grassley. Oh, my OMG, he's 91 years old. Billy, darling, you're keeping up with it, aren't you? Yeah. Well, and if it was Chuck Grassley, that would just be temporary until they figured it out, right? I don't know. Can you imagine the civil war that would happen if it's enforced? BoobTube, I feel like there's going to be a civil war regardless. I don't think that it's going to be peaceful if it goes the way that guy wants it to go. Tenacious D. I fear his insanity. I'll just be quite blunt, and I hope I don't offend you. I really hope I don't offend people. I know some people get offended, so That's just, gotta take it. So yeah, I do think that it'll be wild if it's enforced, and I think it's going to be actually even more wild if it's not enforced. I can't imagine what is going to go down. I mean, it's like this lawlessness and this free for all and this craziness. So I do want to talk some about a connection that I don't think I've seen anybody on YouTube talking about, the connection with RFK Jr. and Trump. Okay. I literally thinks that it ties into Martha Moxley. And I'll explain all that. That was the main reason I was coming on, was to talk about that, because I think it's a thing. I think it's a thing. And if you don't know who Martha Moxley is, it's sort of a similar story in 1975 to Kylie Rodney, really. I mean, oh man, and I was just thinking about Kylie, wasn't I? We know these people are lying. We know these people are lying. In my last video, I was talking about how Meg broke out. Mags, does she go by Mags? She broke out so horribly overnight when Kylie was missing. And yeah, that can happen from eating warm brie cheese if you're me, or that can happen from some substances, but it also happens from stress. And I think that her skin was telling the truth. Like, things were effed up, and she probably wanted to hide under the bed, and Scammy probably wouldn't let her. She's like, no, we got to go talk to people at the rec center. We got to go be on TV and try to act all cool and act like nothing's going on. So my point in bringing all that up is it is 100% obvious that they were hiding crap. And what would they be hiding if it was just a car accident? I mean, we know they were hiding stuff. They know they were hiding stuff. Dang. Never have enjoyed presence of Elon Musk. OMG. Yeah, he's a creeper, in my opinion. Elon's mother is creepy AF. His father also creepy. OMG. Well, and then this whole thing about, like, Tenacious D talking about adopting Canada and Greenland adopting or invading, and the Panama Canal. Like, this is crazy talk. This is absolute crazy talk. I think you're right. No peace either way. Crazy times we're in. And why should it be that way? My goodness. It's like Democrat, Republican. In my opinion, there's really not that big of a difference. I mean, more money on social services, basically, with Democrats. I almost said Republicans. No. No, Republicans don't like to spend money on that sort of thing. And I used to think that that was really, like, heartless. And so they call the Democrats the bleeding hearts. And, there's a lot of that type of money that gets wasted. I definitely have seen that. So, I think I consider myself way more middle of the road. I mean, there's been times where I've certainly felt like one or the other or neither, where I'm just like, you know what? Not doing it. I mean, it's terrible that we only have the two parties, but the two parties have never been at war like this. It's ridiculous. Like, people getting violent, hearing survivors of the January 6th insurrection talk about how these people were, like, bloodthirsty to tear them apart, the law enforcement people, like they'd never experienced, even in combat war. It was just this lust for blood that was unreal, just absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And yeah, I mean, people have those savage instincts, but you don't act them out on the opposing political party. I mean, that's insane. You don't act them out on your children. You don't act them out on your spouse. Try meditating, try sports, try baseball, the wiffle ball bat story, right? Our grocery was out of eggs, y'all. So yeah, yeah, the eggs, the price of eggs. I used to say, like when I was in high school, I used to say, what does that have to do with the price of eggs in China? Meaning, like, why are you even talking about this? And yeah, what does that have to do with the price of eggs? BoobTube says, I'm so sorry. Tariffs going to starve us all. Oh, the the whole thing is just a freaking mess. Like, I just don't think that anyone is. It's like everyone's just out for themselves. I don't think any of these billionaires give a damn about anybody except themselves. Period. And the less people that there are living, then the less they have to share the resources with. I'm pretty sure that's how they're seeing it. I hope not. I hope I'm just being like, dramatic. Cold black heart of Sammy Smith. She look a wreck. Yes, egg shortage. She look a wreck. I like that. That's some good language there. Orange Palm Pawn will not be able to annex other countries. Well, and even talking about it is upsetting. I mean, these are other countries, you don't do that. I mean, it just shows how he's like a toddler. He doesn't understand things, and he's just the master gaslighter. And quite frankly, I think that whole thing with Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal, I think that's all a distraction. That's all. Look over here, people. Don't look over here. One of the things that I don't think he wants you to look at is the election hygiene. I don't think there was election hygiene, and that needs to be scrutinized. United we stand, divided we fall. Exactly. Exactly. For reasons like crimes. I'm politically celibate. That's awesome. I tried that for a long time. I don't F with any of it. I want to care about everyone. I hate bloodlust and corruption. Yeah. Hey, Jackie Pushable. None of them care about us, aka let them eat cake. So I was telling my viewers the other day about Margaret Atwood's first book. What was it called? Now it's escaping me. The book about the cake eating. I can't believe I'm forgetting. That's so funny. Um, and I forgot the ending, and then I remembered it. In the end, she doesn't force her fiance to eat the cake that is her. She eats it herself. She scares him off, and then she eats it herself. So let's see. But yeah, I mean, going right back to Atwood, it's called The Edible Woman. I was thinking cake, 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 The Edible Woman. Going back to The Handmaid's Tale, like, why was that a thing in Kylie Rodney's case? Why was that a thing in the Idaho 4? Why is that a thing in the Project 2025? It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. So yeah, the Edible Woman was kind of the precursor to the um, the Handmaid's Tale, and the Handmaid's Tale is really about like white men being in control of everything, including women's bodies, every cell in a woman's body. It's disgusting. Eat the rich. Well, and like I haven't said it in a long time, but it's like Truckee is the type of place that eats their young, just like in that terrible series that I told you guys about. The town is called Wind Gap, and the name of the series is Sharp Objects. And it's places like that that eat their young, and they really do, metaphorically or for realsies. For realsies. Hey, Granny Annie, what up? Yes. And thank you for the little fans that you sent. That was very sweet. I got those a couple days ago. I think I know what you mean, Jackie Bushable. I was quoting Marie Antoinette. Yes, 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 yes. Let them eat cake. Exactly. Exactly. So, how do we get into this whole thing with I guess I'll just go off the top of my head. the whole thing with JFK, RFK Jr. and Trump. Okay. So they weren't fans of each other's at all. Like, that's putting it nicely and politely. But now they're buddying up. And Trump is, I think, to me, it's like he's threatening the public that he's going to put this guy who's a freaking train wreck with no health. I'm not saying he doesn't know anything about health, but his health is so poor. He seems like he's on death's doorstep. So he's going to put him in charge of all of our health, right? Like, that's pretty scary. That's like putting the Grim Reaper in charge of everyone's health, in my opinion. I mean, the Kennedys are ruthless, heartless maniacs a lot of the time too. Like, they're not clean at all, not at all. So where it goes back to RFK Jr. writing a book called Framed about the Martha Moxley Red Rum, and his book, I think it was around 2016 when he published it. His book is stating that Michael Skakel was framed. So Michael Skakel got away with Red Rum allegedly for 25 years. It happened on October 30th of 1975. The Skakels lived next door to the Moxleys. The Skakels were out of control. 6 boys, 1 daughter. The mother had passed away from cancer. The father was a raging alcoholic. It sounds like almost the entire family was raging alcoholics. And Martha was hanging out with the 2 younger Skakel brothers, and she didn't make it through the night. She was bludgeoned. She was probably violated, and and then she was impaled with a golf club shaft. And nobody was arrested for 25 years. And Mark Furman, of all people, I don't like him, but I like that he did this. He, of all people, picked up that cold case and got it rolling. And then one thing led to another, and Michael Skakel was arrested. So Michael Skakel is direct cousins with RFK Jr. RFK Jr. would have been in college. Around this time, he would have been around 23, I believe. And he was pretty tight with those boys because those were the younger of the boys. So he aligned himself with his mother, Ethel Skakel Kennedy's brother, Russ Skakel, who is the dad of those 7 children. So the Skakels are a heck of a lot richer than the Kennedys. And I would think that that's one reason why RFK aligns himself with his mother's brother. You know, his father was assassinated when I think he was 13 years old when his namesake was assassinated. But Ethel and her brother were close. And to me, it's like the whole family must know that Michael Skakel is guilty. And so I didn't say this one part that is usually left out. So I want to be sure not to leave it out because it's like been whitewashed out of a lot of the things that you see on television and the internet telling this story. Michael Skakel was married with a child when he got arrested initially for Martha Moxley's unaliving. The minute he was arrested, practically, his wife, with a new baby, somewhere around a year old, left him high and dry. So she was married basically to a Kennedy, you know, a Kennedy on steroids, basically. And she was a young new mother, and she didn't miss a step. She just left this man. To me, that makes me think that she knows that he did it. And he was convicted a few years later. I think he was arrested in 2002. And then I think he might have been convicted in about 2004. He was sentenced to 20 years. He served like maybe 11 of those years. I think they pulled a lot of Kennedy strings and got it overturned. and then it was reinstated. His sentencing and his guilty verdict was reinstated, and then it got overturned again. And then before anybody could do anything with it, somehow Skakel's lawyer got the judge to put the kibosh on ever charging him with anything to do with Martha Moxley's unaliving. To add insult to injury, this was done on the 45th anniversary of the homicide. So 45 years since this little 15-year-old teenager was bludgeoned to death, violated, impaled, so close to home, so close to safety. And on the anniversary, on the 45th anniversary, was when it was announced, like, F you, Moxleys, you can't touch this, right? I mean, it's a horrible thing to do anyway, but on the anniversary is just like so in your face. But going back to that 45th anniversary, that was 2020, right? Yeah, that was 4 years ago. So October 30th of 2020. A week before that election cycle. So it would be possible, the Moxleys are loaded too financially, it would be possible for them to sue that judge and to try to get that annulled. But that's tough to do. So Martha Moxley's mother, Dorothy Moxley, just passed away last week. I think it was last Tuesday. I think she was 92. I think she actually passed away from complications with the flu. And then the Ethel Skakel Kennedy passed away this last October 10th, I think it was, of 2024. And she was 96 years old. You know, she lived a long, prosperous life. So that was RFK Jr.'s mom, who passed away this past October. And then Dorothy Moxley's mom just passed away 8 days ago, maybe 9 days ago. And it's in the news a little bit, but I think that that's going to be downplayed, because the thing with the Moxley case is that it's a cold case. It's still unsolved. And I have some suspicion that Trump being president back then in 2020 helped a great deal to get that judge to be able to do something that I don't think there was a precedent set for what that judge did, as far as taking away the Moxley's right or anybody's right to get things sorted out legally with Michael Skakel. So, I mean, I know there's like double indemnity, but, you know, it wasn't that. It was more complex, and I won't try to pretend that I even have a clue. So my point is that RFK Jr. wrote that book in 2016 that helped get Michael Skakel's conviction overturned the second time. And then it was 2020 when his conviction was kind of erased, like no going back to it, right? And I have very strong feelings about how heartless these men are that don't give a damn about this young woman who is essentially bludgeoned in her front yard. I can't stand it. I think it's so disgusting. And I hope that her red rum, that the profile will get heightened, and that will turn some heat on to RFK Jr. And, you know, people don't remember that a year ago he and Tenacious D hated each other. People just don't remember that. We all have the short attention span. And it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. And again, getting back to The Handmaid's Tale, because, you know, Martha was allegedly fooling around with Tommy Skakel that night, the older of the two youngest Skakel brothers. He was 17, and her brother was 17. She was 15, and Michael was 15. And you know who else was 15 back then in 1975? William Kennedy Smith. Over the years, there's been rumors that he was there. I don't think that they're substantial. I don't think they're true, but it is interesting. It was the night before Halloween, which was a big deal in that New England area, in that neck of the woods. They called it Mischief Night. And, teenagers love the mischiefing. So it was a party night. So who knows? I don't know where he was living at the time. I started to try to look into that, but I didn't get there. Anyway, there were other cousins involved for sure. They mentioned them. What's not mentioned very often is that it was a friend of hers that discovered her at about 11:30 in the morning. So the police were there. They were called much earlier. I don't know exactly when the police were called, but they were there for a while, like maybe 7 or 8 in the morning. And they were unable to find the remains or the pieces of the golf club that was broken into 4 pieces. And they never found the handle of the golf club. So the handle had the either the Skakel name on it or just the S, but it was determined to be the 6-iron of the set that was in the Skakel house. And it also would have had a lot of fingerprints on it. And I believe that was the sharp object that she was impaled with. I'm not 100% sure about that. It might have been one of the other parts that was found. But they were found pretty far away. And she'd been dragged across the grass. Very caveman-like. And yeah, Michael had a huge crush on her. She wrote in her diary a lot. Kids talk. Michael had told his friends that he had a huge crush on her. She had been writing in her diary about hanging out with the Skakel boys and trying to stay away from the Skakel boys because they were kind of bad news, trouble. And they hired that guy, Ken Littleton, to, I say babysit, but he was the tutor hired to help with Michael and Tommy. Michael and Tommy had a lot of anger issues, and they were very unrestrained and uncontrollable. And it seems like Russ Skakel had already gone through a bunch of other people that he had hired to try to help control the kids. So I did get it straightened out too, that when Ken Littleton was hired that day, he was told by Russ Skakel to take the kids out to dinner, which, he took them to the yacht club. They all had a luxurious dinner, and it was all the kids, which I found pretty alarming. Like, why did all the kids live at home when the 15-year-old, the 17-year-old are the 2 youngest, and then you had 4 other older brothers and 1 older sister. So, they were young adults, pretty much, the other 5 kids, but they were all there. They all went out to dinner with Ken Littleton. The dad didn't go. The dad had other plans. So then they came home from dinner, and then this whole thing happened. And then they used Ken Littleton as a scapegoat. He had quit his job at the prep school that he'd been teaching at, and he was a coach there. And that's how Russ met him and then hired him. And he came from very humble beginnings. So he was super excited to live in this lavish mansion, like Puff Daddy style, lavish. The Skakel family were heirs to, I don't even know how to explain it, coal and some process that created energy. So they basically owned everything. They were as rich could be, way wealthier than the Kennedys, like I said. And still to this day, RFK Jr. closely aligns himself with that whole family. And I mean, if you know the case, if you know the Martha Moxley case, it's pretty evident that that he did it, that Michael Skakel is guilty. He told a lot of people that he did it, and some of those people ended up deceased after they testified. I mean, it's like pure mobster stuff, you guys. It's crazy. He told a lot of people that he did it. You know, he felt bad, but not bad enough to come clean. And then I had mentioned too how he got in Dorothy Moxley's face one day in court and said to her, "You have the wrong guy." And to me, that's incriminating because, first of all, if your next door neighbor and cute girl that you had a crush on were was red rummed like that, wouldn't you be like sad, and wouldn't you be have compassion towards the family? Like you'd be one of the victims too, that you lost your friend right after you were hanging out with her. So for him to be like angry and assertive and aggressive with a mother who's already dealt with so much, and then just what he said, "You have the wrong guy." So Michael Skakel, you're saying that you know it was a guy, and you're saying that you know it was one person, when it could have just as easily been more than one person, and it could have just as easily been possibly female. I mean, I know it's unusual, but anyway, to say you have the wrong guy infers to me that he knows that it was one guy who did it, because he's the one guy. Yeah. Um, let's see. How much did I miss? I missed a lot. I'm so sorry. I think she actually did not say that. Regardless, that saying is attributed to her. Yeah. I think you are correct, Billy. The phrase was attributed to Marie Antoinette by Alphonse Carr in Les Guipes of March 1843. Very much so. We'll be listening. Just fired up the grill. Awesome. What you cooking? She never spoke of broche, ancient state propaganda by Carr. Did I say that right? Brioche? That's like a French word. I'm not sure how to enunciate it. Yes, Billy, attributed. Fired up and golf club. Yeah, Jackie Bushabelle, they used a golf club to attack Martha Moxley in 1975. So still unsolved. Her mother just passed away 8 or 9 days ago. And there's a connection there to RFK Jr. You know, he wrote a book that had a lot to do with Michael Skakel getting out of jail, basically. So, and I can't help but think it was the Kennedys and other political pull that had everything to do with having that happen, and then to have it happen on the 45th anniversary of her violent assault. They said she wasn't violated in the intimate way, but her pants and her underpants were both pulled around her, down around her ankles. Trigger warning. She was laying on the grass face down, and there was so much of the red stuff. Trigger warning. It seems that she was bludgeoned to lifelessness and then violated and then impaled through the neck. And yeah, the impaling through the neck went sideways. And, you know, there was semen on the grass. So that's why it seems that she was sexually assaulted, not just, I said the buzz phrase, didn't I? Not just that her underpants and her pants were pulled down around her ankles. So Michael Skakel had this cockamamie story, and he'll still stick to it to this day probably, that earlier in the night he had climbed the tree and was whacking off watching her, and then his semen fell into the grass that just happened to be where that other guy put her when the other guy unalived her. I mean, what a weird story. But the DNA was a match to his, but they didn't even have to match it because he told that story pretty quickly. He came up with that story. It's gross, isn't it? I mean, seriously gross. And especially if he violated her when she was already not alive, which it seems pretty likely because she didn't really want anything to do with him. She'd been making out with Tommy that night. I can't help but wonder if he happened upon them making out and that's what enraged him, and that he was already so drunk and rageful and just out of control. Like him and his brother had major um, sibling rivalry, shall we call it. However, evil always protects evil, hence the cold case. Steak and grilled potatoes. Oh, boob tube, very good. Meat and potatoes. What song choice? LOL, the bad guy. Um, Annie says, I feel like a frat was the medical examiner and they have to keep their secrets, in my opinion. Oh, I feel like a frat was, yeah, I mean, the police, they don't mention this too often either. I mean, I've done a lot of deep diving on Martha Moxley over the years. The police in Greenwich, Connecticut, basically were all employed by the Skakel family single-handedly. Officers were often hired to be security detail for Skakel events. So they literally basically owned the police, and I'm sure the medical examiner too. It's your channel. Too funny. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Let me drink some water. Let me see what else I have in my notes to talk about because I'm kind of like, enough of that. We haven't talked about the 20 people over there in Hawaii that blew themselves up with the illegal fireworks on New Year's Eve, have we? So there was, the 2 plane crashes last week, and then the 2 hideous events involving vehicles yesterday in Vegas and New Orleans. But at midnight on the 1st, right at New Year's, a neighborhood in Honolulu went up in flames and at least 20 people didn't make it. So I guess they have a huge problem over there with like bootleg fireworks, which is nuts. So then their mayor, remember their mayor, Green? What was his first name? Because you had Scott Green, Coomer Scott Green over at Idaho 4, and then you had this other guy, Dr. Green, in Hawaii, who's the governor. So he was speaking out about that. And I hadn't seen him since the Lahaina fire thing. And I don't think he'd been there that long when the Lahaina fires happened. But man, it's just so sad. Like people living in paradise and then getting burnt alive. I just can't imagine a worse way to go. The song choice was on my last video, Jez. I used the bad guy, LOL. Was waiting for Billy to yell. The rebel yell. I appreciate Miss Darling. I know, I appreciate you guys so much. And Valerie, too. Nice to see you. So, oh my goodness, you guys. What about this Stephen Yakel, a nonpartisan judge. Where was he? Georgia. He was in Georgia, Effingham County. A state court judge, Stephen Yakel, lost the election and apparently unalived himself in his office the day before he was complete with his term. So he was nonpartisan. He had been doing very well in the pre-trial or pre-election, sorry. He was running against Melissa Calhoun, an independent. He was the incumbent, and he was like 900 points ahead of her. The number of people voting in this little election was just like 2,000. So he had 900 more than her, which was a lot. And then he ended up losing the election by 400. So he tried to appeal and say that it was a manufactured legal technicality was why he lost in the the real election, and citing that he had won by so many in an earlier like trial election. But it's just really suspicious to me that he unalived himself in his office the day before he was to vacate. So on December 6th, he had asked or requested to be granted the permission to resign on December 30th instead of being voted out on December 31st. And he was denied that option. So, yeah, that would be upsetting, but not like end your life upsetting. He was 72 years old. He had a very successful career, a very good looking man, and looked like he was in great health. Probably had kids and grandkids. And sure, he could have unalived himself in his chambers or in his office, but did he? Effingham County State Court Judge. That is, I think, something that we should keep an eye on. Absolutely. So, yeah, I was talking about officers and soldiers getting court-martialed in the event that they fail to carry out orders. If they're given orders that are illegal and they fail to carry them out, they'll be court-martialed. If they are given illegal orders and they do carry them out, they will also be court-martialed. So it's a tough call if you're in a position and your superior, your supervisor, is giving you orders that you don't agree with. I mean, if you disagree with them, that's one thing. But if you think that they're illegal, that's another thing. So, you're not allowed to break the law, basically. And the officers of January 6th, the insurrection, I feel like all of the officers there and Mike Pence and all of the people resisting the insurrection, I feel like they saved a lot of lives. And Mike Pence, his boss was telling him what to do, and he said, I cannot do that. That's illegal. So, he was really the hero of the day. And I've said it a couple of times, like I've never been a fan of his until that day. I became a very, very big fan of his. I still disagree with him on a lot of issues, but he's a remarkable individual to do what he did. So without him, where would we be now? And it's just, I am full of doom and gloom thinking that we're going to be going back there this month to what it would have been without him. So let's see. What else do you guys want to talk about? That was pretty much the main stuff I wanted to discuss. I think I have one or two other notebooks somewhere around here, but they're not handy. Oh, I know, they're in here. My cute little grandma bag. It's like a little floral, what brand is it? Sorry to scratch the mic. What's the brand? Canvas Love. It's Canvas Love. That should be easy enough to figure out. Anyway, it's a cute bag. I put my laptop in it and sometimes my little notebooks. So, yeah, we're still following the Diddy case, the Jay-Z. I got really sick of all of that trauma and abuse of the 13-year-old that filed the lawsuit, and just talking about it so much just was nauseating. I had to steer clear, but I still am very interested in who Celebrity B is, as I'm sure anybody who's been paying attention to that case is. And I still think that the strongest likelihood, in my opinion, is that it was Beyonce. Um, and one of the reasons that I feel like she outweighs the odds of it being J Lo is because her and Jay Z try to say that they didn't even really that they barely knew each other and that they didn't start dating for a few months after that. So they say that they started dating when she was over 19, and I think she just turned 19 when that happened. And the fact of the matter is, they tell people that they met when she was 18 and they met when she was 16 or younger. There's a lot of photographs that have documented that. And why would they be lying about that other than the statutory? But also, to keep her out of the realm of possibilities for who Celebrity B is. And I would think that eventually we're going to find out exactly who Celebrity B is. I also think it's a possibility that it could be like a Kardashian or Naomi Campbell or a few others. I think those are the most likely candidates. And I've wanted to mention the thing with the Kardashians. Do you guys remember the slow white Ford Bronco chase with OJ Simpson? And of course you do. Everything comes back to OJ. Like Martha Moxley and with Mark Furman, OJ case, Kardashians, OJ case. When AJ Rawlings, was that his name? The friend who was driving OJ in the white Ford Bronco with that slow speed chase, that their destination where they stopped the car was the Kardashians' house, right? And that's when Kris Kardashian was married to Robert Kardashian. And OJ went into the house, into one of the teenage girls' rooms, and basically refused to come out. And you want to know whose room that was? Kim Kardashian. So she was 13 years old. She had OJ Simpson basically commandeering her bedroom. And the rest is history. I mean, it's just kind of weird, isn't it? It's so weird. So weird. Sharon Kenny, hello from Iowa. So I'm in Ohio. We're going to be getting like 2 inches of snow tonight, allegedly. So it's been really cold too. Isn't that weird that that's kind of a precursor to the Kardashian fame? So weird to me. So we haven't talked about Mangione. I don't know that we really need to. We haven't talked about the Idaho 4 and that whole thing with the incident from the year prior that definitely wasn't him. That the little redhead Gigi from Arkansas is the one who was pestering Paula Plunder to look into it, and she made a video about it of her own like a year and a half ago. And what do you guys think of that Gigi from Arkansas with the Idaho 4 case? The one who came up with that freaking letter. And I was so disappointed. I watched Christina Randall yesterday, and she was doing a broad swath of the Idaho 4 case, and she believes that letter is real. And I'm just like, oh man, you need to look more into it. That letter, there was no letter. There was no letter, and not real. But if you're going to try to say that somebody would have slaughtered 4 people because they got resigned from their job, basically, you could look no further than Matthew Kurt and the entire command staff at Washington State University. Sergeant Matthew Kurt was forced to resign on November 4th, 9 days before the quadruple homicide. And he was, how shall we say, a deviant, that type of deviant. And then his command staff knew that he was like that, and they didn't do anything about it. So that was like the police chief, the assistant chief, and the captain. So they had all been put on an administrative leave. That's when Chief Jenkins from Pullman, who had interviewed Koberger, then went over to hold the fort down at WSU, which he had his own Dan Hargraves sergeant doing not just the same type of thing with Matthew Kurt. He was actually doing those things with Matthew Kurt under the supervision of Jenkins. So Jenkins goes over there, and all three of the command staff were forced to resign over the summer. I mean, they weren't forced. They could have stayed and been heavily reprimanded and disgraced, but they were, given the option to fly free and just run for the hills and never come back, which they all did. So, if you're going to have like retribution over job loss, I don't think a first year graduate student would have that type of passion and anger over fellowship not working out. I mean, he interviewed for that fellowship at Pullman PD. We still know nothing about that. And then he was a assistant professor, I think, at Washington State University. And Mangione was also an assistant professor, I think. I think his degree was in IT. And they both had the bushy eyebrows, you guys. It's all about the bushy eyebrows, right? And then I wanted to talk about we haven't talked about it in a long time, J.P. Miller, Micah Miller case. If you guys want to talk about that for a minute. Lots of cases to try to keep up with. And, I've been really good with doing my yoga and doing my YouTube, my true crime almost every day, and my yoga almost every day. And I'm just, sometimes I think maybe I should have 2 channels, keep them separated, but I don't know if I could manage 2. I have enough of a hard time just trying to manage the one. So grilling is getting serious now. We'll be listening. Oh man, the smell of grilled steak. There's nothing like it, right? Gigi has been a train wreck. Other lives, insane. One was a boozy Friday. So, hey, tell me what you mean, Annie. I don't know other cases that she's been involved with. I've steered clear of her ever since she came out on the scene. When she had her first video with her little announcement about the letter, for the first 15 minutes, I was falling for it, but then I quit falling for it. And then I was like, yeah, this person's an actress. And personally, I don't think she's just a lunatic out there on her own doing that crap. I think she's kind of like a paid actor, basically. I think we see a lot of those in the streets of YouTube. I do. So the thing I wanted to talk about with Micah Miller and JP, we could call him JP Ultra, couldn't we? I like to call him JP Diddy, but JP Ultra is a good one too. Agatha May is a channel that I really enjoy the way she tells the story, keeping up with what's going on with him. And I just think that they need to readdress the quote unquote accident that Chris Skinner, Susie Skinner's husband, passed away in, with that wheelchair going into the drink of the swimming pool. With the 2 of them having a history together, and then her husband passing away, and then his wife passing away. I mean, how convenient is that? How nice that they could be there for each other to go out for sushi, a day or 2 after his wife is deceased. dead in the water, right? I mean, people love putting remains in water, to destroy evidence. That's quite a thing. And then you have the whole drowning thing too. Well, if they were in the water, then they must have drowned, right? I mean, that's just old school. That's like old mobster school. Okay. GG about Idaho 4. A channel had cocktail night. She is Jen, right? She is Jen on one of her channels. Not to be confused with some very good Jens. So I don't know who the good Jens are. I know Jen Soto, not a good one. But yeah, Gigi and Jen, and you know, something about her is very toxic. I mean, whether she's just a whack job operating on her own volition, or if she is in fact a plant, basically, she's extremely twisted and sick, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Yes, indeed. So I appreciate you guys so much. We're already up to an hour. And I do want to still try to get a yoga video in tonight. So why don't we go ahead and wrap this one up? Try to get on the ball tomorrow. It's been so hard with the holidays and family and everything. I was all set up to do a video today at about like 1 o'clock. I was just about to hit go when it all got derailed because of that whole family thing. And it was a little frustrating, but I'm happy that I got on tonight. I'm just not as sharp in the evening. I like to be sharper when I'm on, but I just like to see you guys too. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. We have 8 viewers and only 7 likes. One more. Maybe you just forgot. I know I forget a lot of the time. So, yeah, anything for the new year that you guys are going to do special? I mean, I think it's really important. Dang it, Nancy. Hi. Really important to take care of yourself, whether it's New Year's Day or not New Year's Day. And yeah, I hope you had a very blessed holiday too. Absolutely. Oh man, all that stuff with Micah Miller is just so sad, with JP Ultra controlling her and wrecking her life. Completely wrecking her life, wrecking the lives of her friends and family. What a monster he is. Granny Annie says Jen Soto, in my opinion, is numb to child SA. I know about the Rex, but I didn't think he was evil. Evil, I know. I didn't think he was evil. Right. I know. I mean, that cop had just shown her a photograph on Stephen Stern's phone of her daughter with, trigger warning, her daughter with his package in her mouth. And the cop had just shown her that photograph right before she made that comment about, well, I don't think that he would have unalived her. I don't think he's evil or anything. When she just saw that photograph, I don't think he's evil or anything. And the cop was just like, oh my God, what? My yoga mat went missing. LOL, had hard to miss it. Funny. Yeah. So, oh man, it's just been so good doing the yoga. And I really encourage anybody that is interested in trying it. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and you don't have to push yourself hard. If you do it just really lightweight, especially the first time you do it, you feel it. It's remarkable. It's extremely invigorating and rejuvenating, and you feel the effects for days afterwards. JP, coercive control. Yeah. And the whole thing with that gang stalking and street theater. You know, he was all about the gang stalking street theater. That's his speciality. I'd be in prison proudly serving life sentences if anyone touched my child. Exactly. Dang it, Nancy. If most people being shown a picture like that of their child would be like, you'd have to peel them off the ceiling. Seriously. Completely disgusting. And yeah, then she right after that said something to the effect of, you know, well, we need to make sure he has a really good defense attorney. It's just like, ooh, where are you coming from, crazy lady? Where are you coming from? Straight from hell, right? All right, you guys, here we are. We just hit an hour, so we got to hang up quick. No, just kidding. I'm just kind of, aloof and out of it. So I will say my goodbyes, good nights, and dang it, Nancy says, yes, thank you, Jazz, for getting me on the yoga train. It helps with our aging, achy bones. Stretching feels so good. Any stretch at all. Any stretch at all. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Um, the one that I've showed you guys, I haven't shown you in a while, is where you just drop your ear to your shoulder and then use a light touch with your fingertips. And then you can move your head around a little bit to really get a massage in there. And then come back to neutral. Drop that ear to the shoulder on the other side. And you don't need to push far. You don't need to push hard. Just a nice little stretch. And it just makes such a difference. Absolutely. Might just try bed yoga cold in San Felipe. Need to move my body. I know they have the whole thing with the chair yoga. I've never done that, but it looks pretty cool too. Good night, Miss Jazz, to you and yours. Dang it, Nancy. Can you lose weight doing yoga? You can seriously lose weight doing yoga. My doctor says if you really want to lose weight, you need to walk an hour a day and do your yoga every day. And I believe her. However, she's not really privy to the yoga, my routine that is an hour and 15 minutes almost, as opposed to most yoga routines are 50 to 60 minutes. So it's almost like a routine and a half. And that type of yin yoga really helps like elongate and tone your muscles and kind of pulling them. I mean, making them slender, maybe. But what's important is just how good you feel when you're doing it. And, it's some real basic stuff like the twists, real basic twists, but they're fantastic. And twists are great for your digestion too. Shoulder stand is also really good for your digestion. So there's a shoulder stand at the end of the routine. So I just have the one routine that I just keep working on again and again. And anything in it is anything that I'm doing or giving the directives to do is just a suggestion. You don't need to feel like you need to do any of the things if you don't want to, or if you have like a knee injury or something. You can just kind of walk through it and do what you can. Definitely don't push yourself. You don't want to overdo it. That's the big thing. And especially when you're getting used to something new, very important to take it slow and easy, because if you don't, you will suffer the consequences. So I hadn't talked about those letters or the posts, that Trump made about Carter and how he was a very consequential president, the most consequential, and how he misused I when he should have said me. Yeah, I haven't looked at that train wreck for the last 24 hours. I can't. Look away, look away. All right, waiting for an hour. I can't commit to doing anything for an hour. Oh, walk for an hour. Well, and yeah, just start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah. I'm proud of you. Can you believe how fast 2024 came and went? I know. And my toe, I hurt my toe right around January 6th, I think it was. And it's pretty much back to normal, but it's just crazy how it took like an entire year, really. It was pretty severe. So, should I try to show it? Should I? I mean, you can see it better in my yoga videos, but yeah, it was so beat over here. I mean, it was like a bite was taken out of it, and the doctor thought they were going to have to do surgery. They thought I might lose part of my toe, you guys. So I am so grateful to have that toe. I'm so grateful to have you guys. I'm so grateful that my dog's doing well. You know, she's had her cancer surgically removed twice. So now we're doing the preventative radiation treatment. We need to get the ball rolling with that. So that's going to be intensive because that's like a lot. That's just a lot. So, all right, you guys, peace out. I hope to see you tomorrow. And what else? Oh, I did my yoga live on New Year's Eve. I hadn't done a live yoga in a very long time, and I wasn't expecting to do that. That was kind of funny. And Valerie, weren't you here? I had two people. I think you were one of the two, weren't you? Anyway, I apologize. My short-term memory is really bad like that. So it's a little embarrassing sometimes. I'd have to go look at the video and see who commented because it was like basically one person the whole time and then somebody else just a little bit. So, all right, peace out, you guys. Love and light. Have a really good night. Sorry to be so like low energy and slow in the brain. It's all right, huh? Take it easy. Take good care of yourself. Treat yourself well. I think that we should all have a New Year's resolution to just be, right? Just be. Seriously. Um, it's a lot just to sit with yourself. And yeah, hopefully I will get here earlier tomorrow. Yeah, I have no idea what time I'm going to be able to come on tomorrow, Sherry. I wish I could tell you, but I hope that I can come on tomorrow. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. And then Monday, things should get back to normal. Hopefully, fingers crossed. All right. Love and light. Happy New Year. Thanks for coming by. And yay. See you soon.